Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long.
I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show.
I forgot that. Good morning.
Don't mind us. We're having a moment of the giggles.
And chaos, as always.
As always. Welcome to the shit show, ladies and germs, our ghouls and goblins, mainly. I looked at our specs. Did you know that?
Did you look at the specs? I did not.
I looked at my specs. So, our analytics for our audience, did you know we are mainly in between the ages of 23 to 60? And
That's a wide age gap.
It is. And we're 86% female.
That's not surprising.
6% non-binary, 5% male, and 2% non-specified. But our majority age range is 28 to 34. So, all y'all, what's up? Welcome to the shit show. How you doing?
Welcome to the chaos.
Special shout out to Romania, South Korea, United Kingdom, New Zealand, and Germany for joining us on our show.
Woo!
Yeah.
Welcome.
We now have New Zealand.
We got some Kiwis.
That's so exciting. And they don't say throw another shrimp on the barbie. They don't call it shrimps,
No.
They call it prawns.
Yes.
Prawns. I don't know. That's all I remember is that stupid freaking the thing making fun of Kiwis. Oh no. How they say oh no. Anyways, hope you guys are having a great day. We are here talking about a bunch of spooky shit. Rachel, it's your turn today. What are we talking about?
Oregon.
Oh, I love Oregon. Are we talking about the Gold Coast line today? I think we are.
Kind of?
So that's what it's nicknamed, is the Gold Coast.
Oh, okay.
And there's one thing about Oregon I can tell you that is probably not in your notes. There is a bar and grill that is in Gold Beach, which is just getting into the Oregon coast off of the one. And it is only open 3 days a week until nightfall because it is an abandoned ship built into the side of the mountain.
Oh, nice.
It is the coolest place ever.
And for safety reasons, they can't be open after dark.
Right. But, I mean, I stopped and asked for directions because I was really fucking lost. I was like, how do I get here? And they're like, oh, honey, welcome to Gold Beach. You just got to keep going. I was like, just keep.
Why is it called Gold Beach?
I don't. Let me look.
I'm curious, like, was it like a nickname that just stuck, or there's gold in them their heels?
So Gold Beach is in Tulola. It's a city in the county of Curry County. It's got a very, very small population. It's like right when you get into but it was named as being the first beach near the mouth of the Rogue River where hundreds of miners found gold.
That would make sense.
But this is like what you see. I'm going to send it to you on Messenger. Where is it?
Okay.
That is like what you see when you go into Gold Beach, but that's not the bar. That's just
okay. I was about to say.
No.
That looks very tetanus-y.
Yes. Have you got your tetanus shot? But yeah, no. I love Oregon. Ooh, let's go.
Let me back up my notes. Sit up a little bit better.
Yeah, we don't want to.
I was sliding down.
We don't want to do that.
Okay, so.
So what do you got to tell us about
Right.
Oregon?
There's a lot of spooky shit that's going on in Oregon.
I would assume so.
So much spooky shit.
Okay.
So all the way back in the beginning to the OGs.
Yeah.
There's considerable Paleo Indians that first inhabited the region. So like we going like spooky shit from like back in the like beginning of time kind of shit.
Back in the day. Yeah. Okay.
The oldest evidence of habitation was found at Fort Rock Cave and the Paisley Caves in Lake County.
Okay.
Archaeologist Luther Cressman dated material from Fort Rock to roughly 13,200 years ago.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so like back in the day.
Way back in the day.
And evidence supporting inhabitants in the region at least 15,000 years ago.
Damn.
By 800 BC, there were settlements all over the state, with populations mainly along the lower Columbia River, in western valleys, and around the coastal river mouths, because it would make sense.
Right.
That's where the resources are.
Right.
That would be where they would settle.
They got fish, they got trees, they had lots of animals. Yeah. Like most places.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
During the prehistoric era, the Willamette Valley region became flooded due to the collapse of the glacial dams from what was Lake Missoula, which was located in present-day Montana.
Okay.
These massive floods occurred during the last glacial period and proceeded to fill the valley with 300 to 400 feet of water. Ooh. Which for the rest of the world, that is, not, that's using, actual correct measuring units.
Yeah.
That is 91 to 122 meters.
That is a buttload of water.
Yeah, it really is. By the 16th century, the land was home to many different Native American groups, including the Chinook, the Coquille, the Bannock, the Kalapuya, the Klamath, the Klickitat, the Molola, the Nez Perce, Shasta, Takelma, Umatilla, and the Umpqua.
So the Shasta, the native people, the Shasta, they actually have a county in California called Shasta County. And there's also one up north in Washington called Shasta after those native peoples. The more you know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, and then the colonizers showed up and had to ruin everything.
Dirty fucking colonizers with their fucking smallpox.
Fucking everything.
God damn.
Spanish explorers, led by Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, showed up in 1543. Okay. And shit proceeded to go downhill from there because once one colonizer shows up, the rest follow.
Yeah.
Sir Francis Drake anchored off the shore briefly in 1579. Martin de Aguilar showed up in 1603.
Hold it!
Hello. Are we better?
I was gonna die. I look, okay, I didn't think I had to pee. I was fine. I had 2 cups of coffee and only a little bit of my water. And then my uterus was like, about that.
Your uterus or your bladder?
No, my uterus contracted. Like I was, having a PMS symptom, but I'm not because it's not time yet. Continue on.
All right.
The listeners don't need to know about my lady bits.
So you need to leave in Josh's little escapade.
Did he come in?
He did.
Oh, I was in the potty.
Okay, so Martin de Aguilar showed up in 1603.
Yep.
1774, Juan Jose Perez Hernandez showed up and started a valuable trade route to Asia.
Oh.
And then in 1778, the infamous James Cook showed up and explored the land.
Oh, no.
Obviously, before he was killed by the Hawaiians.
Of course. Yes, but oh, no.
Yeah. Settlements then started popping up in the late 18th and 19th centuries. French Canadians, Scots, Metis, and other continental native trappers started the move towards Oregon.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the Catholic clergy followed them into the area because, of course, they did.
The Catholics. Don't get me wrong. Catholics now, a good chunk of them are great. We salute you.
Catholics then, however.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. They were not very nice human beings.
As Eddie Izzard says, little red cookbook, little red cookbook. Very bad.
Pretty much.
Very bad.
And of course, where the clergy go, so does the abuse.
Oh, God.
The Lewis and Clark expedition traveled through northern Oregon in search of the Northwest Passage, and they built their winter fort in 1805 to 1806 at Fort Clatsop and stayed from December of 05 to March of 06.
That is, yeah.
Oh, we're not even done yet.
Oh, God.
A bunch of other explorers showed up over the years, claiming land for this kingdom or another, because of course they do.
Of course they did.
Because
they had a flag.
Yes. Despite the fact that the land was already occupied by other people who wanted nothing to do with the invaders' countries.
Oh, my God.
In 1842 to 1843, the Oregon Trail started.
Yep. We talked about that on
yes.
Donner Pass.
Yes. Boundaries were disputed for a time, but the border was defined peacefully. I put that in air quotes, peacefully, in the 1846 Oregon Treaty between the UK and the US. Nothing about the people who originally lived there, however. They didn't get a choice in the matter.
Oh. Well, obviously, because it's colonizers, but...
Yes. The Oregon Territory was officially organized on August 13th of 1848, and settlements increased with the Donation Land Claim Act of 1850. And by doing so, they did the forced relocation of the native population to Native American reservations in Oregon.
Oh. Okay.
Because they're like, oh, well, this is our land now. Fuck you guys.
Nah, fuck them.
We're going to put you on these little tiny pieces of land that nobody wants.
Fuck that.
The first proposition for a railroad was made by H.M. Knighton, who was the original owner of the town site of St. Helens.
Allegedly.
Yeah. He had proposed to make good the claim of his town to the seaport head of navigation on the Columbia River by building a railroad in 1851. From St. Helens through the Cornelius Pass across Washington County to the city of Lafayette, the town that was the biggest in the Willamette Valley. In December of 1844, Oregon passed its first black exclusion law.
I'm sorry. Can
Yeah,
you, did I hear you correctly? Black exclusion law?
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I know. So it prohibited African Americans from entering the territory while simultaneously prohibiting slavery. I'll let you finish that drink.
There are a lot of things wrong with that sentence.
Oh, it gets a little worse.
Worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Slave owners who brought their slaves with them were given 3 years before they were forced to free them.
I'm I'm sorry.
Yeah, they had
Okay.
3 years from the moment they stepped foot in the territory to free their slaves. Any African Americans in the region after the law was passed were forced to leave.
Right.
Those that did not comply were arrested and beaten. Those that did not leave, they received no less than 20, but no more than 39 stripes across the back. This process
Jesus.
could be repeated every 6 months until either they died or they left.
What the fuck? Sorry. Sorry. My
Told you it
God.
got worse.
Jesus.
Oregon became a state on February 14th of 1859, but the residents didn't know until a month and a day later.
That's Jesus Christ.
But I mean, it's because, mail getting back and forth.
Right.
Took a while. Founded as a refuge from disputes over slavery, they had a whites only clause in the original state constitution.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. This was the, 1600s, right?
Oh no, this is right before the Civil War.
Oh God. Okay.
So 19th century.
All right.
At the start of the Civil War, regular troops were withdrawn and sent east to aid the Union because that was the biggest thing was they were a Union uh, state. And so part of the reason why it took forever for uh, Oregon to get their statehood was because uh, the North and South were going back and forth about whether or not they wanted them on one side or the other. Volunteer cavalry recruited in California were sent north to Oregon to keep peace and protect the populace.
Right.
The first Oregon cavalry served until June 1865.
Okay.
Portland became a major force in the lumber industry and earned the nickname Stump Town. He did that earlier.
I love you. He does that. He'll come up behind me. I can't even hear him because I'm deaf as a damn doornail. He'll come up behind me and he'll poke me and he'll go doo, and I'm like, stop poking me on the butt. There is no need for that
relationship.
God damn,
it's so adorable.
The kid on the playground that pulls your fucking ponytails.
Okay. Anyways, so Portland became nicknamed Stump Town because they became such a big force in the lumber industry. And so all that was left was stumps at one point or another.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Portland also became the largest city in the state. Fast forward to World War II.
Right.
May 5th of 1945, 6 civilians were killed by a Japanese balloon bomb that exploded on Gerhardt Mountain nearby.
Holy shit.
Those deaths remain to be the only people on American soil whose deaths were attributed to an enemy balloon bomb explosion during World War II. The site is now located in the Mitchell Recreation Area.
That is no bueno.
Uh, yeah. Liberty ships and aircraft carriers were constructed in the Portland area because they were port. They had port building, they had shipbuilding places.
Yeah.
Um, Fast forward, 1972, the Oregon Beverage Container Act of 1971, called the Bottle Bill, became the first of its kind. This bill was created to control litter by promoting recycling, not reusing. And the collected containers are generally destroyed and made into new containers. 10 states currently have similar laws.
Okay.
1994, they were the first U.S. state to legalize physician-assisted sewer slide
Ooh,
through the Oregon Death with Dignity Act.
that is still. I can tell you with a fact that is still active.
Yeah, it's uh, they are one of the very few states.
Yep.
I think I want to say there's only a handful of states.
There's not a ton.
Yeah. Uh, measure to legalize recreational use of marijuana was approved on November 4th, 2014, making Oregon only the second state at that time to have legalized gay marriage, the physician assisted deaths, and recreational weed use.
I do have to say I did date somebody way back in the day. We're not going to post his name, but he was a really big pot producer, and that's where he kept his farm. And I found out that's why he was able to pay. He dressed like Adam Sandler, though. It was kind of funny, but he was able to pay for literally everything. And like one time, I was really struggling with rent. I was working 3 full-time jobs. He paid. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent. I interrupted. I apologize.
That's fine.
But he apparently called my landlord and paid for my rent like 6 months in advance. And I went, I don't have to pay for 6 months. And she goes, yeah, and your lease is done at the end of that. So whatever money you make, just, put it in savings. Him and I had gone out to dinner, and we were at the sushi place, the all-you-can-eat sushi place that we used to go to. And I was like, man, it was great. It was like, like pixie dust or something. And then I found out years later, right before my landlord passed away, because him and I were still friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
He had told me, this guy paid for your rent. And I was like, where did he get that money? And it took me a couple of years of just turning the wheels. And I went, oh my God. I was out to dinner with my husband, and I was like, oh my God. And it just clicked. And I went, oh, that's where he got the
very delayed reaction.
Yeah, 20 years later.
Yes.
Anyways, continue.
So my last little thing about the history. Self-serve gas was banned in 1951 until August of 2023. Self-serve is now allowed, but stations are not required to offer it, so many do not.
So
New Jersey is the only other state that does not have self-serve gas pumps.
Huh.
An attendant has to come out and pump your gas for you.
Okay, see, I knew Oregon had it until about 2023 because it was illegal when I went up there, and I've been living on the East Coast for forever. That's weird.
Yeah, New Jersey is the only state left to not have self-serve gas pumps.
Jeez.
Alrighty, so
on to the spooky shit.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's still a little discombobulated.
Oh, it's not.
I tried to. I left my stuff in because I want to read off like the other little haunted places, but it's like I have really the main ones.
Yeah.
Okie doke. So starting off in Eugene, Oregon.
Okay. Love Eugene.
So they have a couple of cemeteries, like Most places do.
Right.
They have a pioneer cemetery that was founded in 1872 by the Spencer Butte Lodge Number 9 of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, which is
Oddfellows.
a non-political, sectarian international fraternal order of odd fellowship, which is like the Freemasons. They just kind of do their own thing.
Okay. All right.
Um, the cemetery is located adjacent to the campus of the University of Oregon,
Uh-huh.
but is not affiliated with them. They University of Oregon has tried a few times to buy the um, the property before it was placed on the register of historic places
Right.
because they wanted the land to add to the campus.
Right.
And like one thing led to another, plans always fell through. And so finally, the cemetery was added to the register in
Right.
1997. Um, I love how in my notes I just went, most likely just ghosts hanging out. Because it was very like hit or miss. Like, oh yeah, there's definite, ghost there. Like,
Right.
because I'm like, it's a cemetery.
They're gonna
It's a
have
cow
ghosts and
farm.
shit.
It's a cow farm. There's gonna be cows
How's
outside.
that?
So like a cemetery, there's gonna be ghosts. Like that's how like they go hand in hand on this.
It's gonna happen whether you want it to or not.
Right. So their second cemetery is the Masonic Cemetery.
Okay.
Some of the city's well-known figures, such as founder Eugene Skinner, were laid to rest in this cemetery, which is also on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah.
Locals visiting the cemetery pay their respects, or to pay their respects, have reported visions that appear and quickly disappear. The most haunted location on the grounds is the Hope Abbey Mausoleum. Um, so the entrance to the mausoleum is limited to special occasions such as the Music to Die For concert series each summer until October.
Well, hold on. Let's back it up a little bit. In what?
The
In the
concert series?
I no. Why would you? Oh my god. Okay, just keep going.
The Hope Abbey Mausoleum was dedicated in 1914 and is designed in the Egyptian Revival style. And then I believe it was the 1990s, they redid the outside so that way it was uh, wheelchair accessible.
Okay.
Um, so this cemetery is the oldest chartered cemetery, oldest privately owned and continuously operating historic entities in Lane County. It was incorporated as a burial site in 1859. Per customs of the time, the city fathers asked the Freemasons to establish a city bury ground that is open to all.
Okay.
Because usually, like in some places, like you have the Catholic cemetery and the Protestant family cemetery and the Lutheran family cemetery, and then you have the poor, everybody else cemetery. Like,
Yeah.
So this was just a one place to bury everybody.
Right.
So the Freemasons purchased 10 acres about 2 miles from the town center and laid out the cemetery. In 1994, ownership passed from the Masons to the nonprofit Eugene Masonic Cemetery Association, whose board members are strictly volunteers. They decided to retain the Masonic in the name as an important historical reference, but is no longer officially affiliated with the Freemasons.
Okay.
The mausoleum and cemetery were placed on the register in 1980. And then Part three of the cemeteries in Eugene. Uh, this is the Looper Cemetery.
Loopers,
Yes, Luper.
not double O
Uh,
L U.
nope,
Okay.
nope, just a U. The cemetery is located just outside of Eugene and is one of the oldest in the area. 17 of those buried here were pioneers on the Oregon Trail.
Ooh.
The isolation of the cemetery just adds to the scare factor.
Uh,
It is hidden by trees that are surrounded by open fields. So, like, it's like you would miss it
right.
if you weren't actively looking for it. Um, and unfortunately, as with the other two cemeteries in Eugene, vandalism has occurred to both
Oh,
uh, to, to the headstones and monuments in the cemeteries.
that's so sad.
Yes. Um, there is a pretty nifty house in Eugene. It's called the Shelton McMurphy Johnson House.
Oh, okay.
It was named for the three families who have called it home over the years. It is a Victorian era home that is on the National Register of Historic Places.
We love us some painted
Uh,
ladies.
it was built in 1888, suffered two major fires.
Oh,
One during the initial construction when it was built, and then the second during the 1950 Johnson remodel.
okay.
And I put in my notes possible residual energy by the families.
Possible, more than likely.
I mean, quite possible. There's Mount David and Cottage Grove.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it is a local treasure loved by residents for being a beautiful piece of nature in the middle of town.
Yeah.
But true locals know to leave before dark. There is said to be a spirit that will chase away any visitor as soon as the sun sets. There is a family cemetery of colonists from the 1850s on the hill, which is named after the settler David McFarland. And in the 1920s, a swindler named Reverend Olson claimed Mount David was full of oil. But after the initial well was dug, he disappeared, along with all the investors' money. No oil was ever found, but the hole remains to this day.
Ooh, doggy.
Yeah, I was like, oh boy. Still in Cottage Grove, there's Bohemia Mountain.
Bohemia Mountain. Okay.
Yes. So deep in the Umpqua National Forest, uh, this mountain is full of abandoned mines and a ghost town left behind by the rugged men who spent their days working. Uh, Exploring the ghost town on the trail is immediately spooky. There are bones of old structures and rusty tools that were left behind.
Okay. Not actual bones, just the
No, like,
structures. Okay.
yes, as if the people living and working there had disappeared in the middle of their task.
Ooh.
Yeah. Uh, Many men have died hauling out the modern equivalent of more than $30 million worth of gold and silver.
Holy shit.
Uh, those that visit today might encounter the ghost of a prospector or two who lost their lives to the treacherous mines or a greedy fellow gold hunter.
I mean, greedy ghosts are never good.
No.
We
And the
did.
fact that so many died searching.
Right. That's never any good.
And then you have Bohemia City, which is a ghost town that lies off of the trailhead. A few buildings and some mining equipment remained from the original settlement, which consisted of saloons, hotels, and some residents. The surrounding area was once known as the Bohemia Mining District, named for the Czech immigrant James Johnson, who had the nickname Bohemia, who had discovered gold in the area in 1863.
Okay.
A gold mine and settlement was established in 66.
Okay. In 1866, right?
Yes, in
Okay.
1866.
All right.
Have you ever heard of the Shanghai Tunnels?
Oh, yes. I've heard many a thing about the Shanghai Tunnels, but of course they're super fucking haunted.
Oh, yes, so much very so.
All the
Um,
spooky.
so those that don't know, it's located in Portland. So there are various passages that are connecting uh, basements of businesses down to the waterfront, to the docks.
Yep.
They were unfortunately not just used for material cargo, but also for human cargo.
Unfortunately.
Um, Men were drugged and brought down to the tunnels and deposited on ships as for crew, and women were forced into prostitution or slavery.
Right. And this is not like we love women with all boots. No, no, no. This is like they did not want to be a part of this lifestyle.
No, they were forced into this, and
Correct.
it was bad.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so like not just only like the taverns were connected by the tunnels, but also hotels.
Oh, hell no. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because like the whole reason for them was moving, cargo from the ships. That way they weren't having to deal with streetcar and train traffic and
Right.
up on the main roads. However, like with all good things, there comes the bad.
Oh, shit. All right.
Organized crime rings ran rampant in the tunnels, abducting men via drugging and alcohol, or just plain out just knocking them unconscious,
Okay.
um, to be forced into servitude on ships as crew members. And where there, they were either you worked and got fed, or you starved and you died.
Right.
You didn't have an option.
No.
Um, During the height of the operation, estimated 2,000 people a year were kidnapped through these underground tunnels.
That's just
Abductors were called crimps, CRIMPS, and
not to be
would
confused with pimps.
no,
Yes.
and they would get paid roughly $50 a head per person. Uh, that were turned over to the captains for the cruise.
All right. And this was what year?
Um, it went all the way up until the 1940s.
So let's just do 1940. $50.
Like,
$1,119.81.
yeah.
That is preposterous.
Um, so men looking to make a quick buck would prowl the bars, saloons, and taverns looking for young, able-bodied men who were alone.
Oh,
Uh, they would wait until the target was drunk and then take him down to the basement. And unfortunately, a lot of these saloons, bars, and taverns had a setup in place where the bartender was on the payroll
right,
for these crimps, and they would help aid for their part of the cut.
right,
Um, Once down the tunnels, they would keep them until like the next captain needed somebody. They collected these people down these tunnels and just kept them unconscious, either by drugging, alcohol, or just plain out knocking them unconscious.
Jesus.
Um, and some people actually died down there because of it.
Well, yeah, because it's like it's underground,
Yeah.
but also they didn't know the dosage of what they were doing.
Mm-mm. They're
Or,
just like, oh, well, okay, you're unconscious. Cool. Not
right,
just you're unconscious. We need to make. I mean, for like the most part, like they had to take like some care because otherwise they didn't get their money.
Right.
Like the person had to be alive and be able to work, otherwise they didn't get paid.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing as like, okay, with Bridgerton. They didn't know they were allergic to items. They would just die, you
Yeah,
know? So people didn't know if they had allergies or anything like that. It would just happen.
yeah. Anyway, so stories started circulating Portland, and soon men became more conscious when drinking at bars, and when abducting men became difficult, uh, the crimps started to kidnap women instead.
This
The
is
women?
sorry. I hate to
No, go ahead.
interrupt. This is why women choose the bear. Just
It really is.
I'm just saying this is one of the instances, well, it's not all men. You know, we're going back what? The 1800s, the 1900s.
Yeah, like late 1800s into the early 1900s. Like,
This is ridiculous. Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
um, so women who frequented bars alone became easy prey. Uh, so many of the bars had trap doors that were sprung on unsuspecting women. Like they just happened to walk past and
It hell
they would
no.
pull the lever and the women would fall in.
It's like hell's bells. I'm sorry. No,
Pretty much.
no.
Once the woman fell into the tunnel, it was impossible to get back out.
The fuck?
Prostitution rings, because it was kind of a,
I know, but still, the fuck?
yeah. Prostitution rings were often used the tunnels to hold groups of women in cages for long periods of time.
Oh,
Uh, this gave them enough time to secure buyers outside of Portland.
man.
Yeah. Chinese gangsters were also known uh, to Shanghai people after drugging them.
Holy crap.
Chinatown had many different conflicting group gangs who oftentimes had their own separate tunnels towards the docks.
So it wasn't just the one.
It wasn't just white guys. Nope.
Right.
Uh, they used the tunnels to sneak in immigrants as well as goods and drugs.
Okay.
The many different brothels, bars, and gambling layers received these goods and people through their own personal tunnels and trapdoors. Like most of the gangs in the area, using these methods prevented them from being busted by the police because it was harder to track them
Right.
in the tunnels.
Right.
During Prohibition, the tunnels became underground expressways because you were able to hide the alcohol there.
That's the part that I knew about, was using it
Yeah.
for the prohibition.
The tunnels were used to transport alcohol shipments from ships on the Willamette River to bars all over Portland. Obviously, the bars, hotels, and taverns used secret passages to conduct their businesses away from prying eyes, aka the police.
Right.
Police routinely raided the bars during Prohibition, making daily operations impossible for bar owners.
Oh.
To combat this, bar owners began stashing their alcohol supply deep in the tunnels to avoid arrest.
Right.
Hidden doors were also commonly used in bars during this time. Police raided the bars, taverns, and saloons in large groups, which made it impossible for criminals to escape, because that was the whole point.
Right.
Bar owners used the hidden doors and passages to hide their business associates while they were on the run. Once the police concluded their business, the criminals would then return to their seat at the bar and have another drink.
Oh my
God. Once police officers realized that businesses and gangs were using the tunnels, they began to do searches of them. Unfortunately, the officers were oftentimes unsuccessful because of the tunnel's sheer expansiveness, because they were huge.
Right.
They went all over the city. Gangsters and bar owners had long since mapped out the underground passageways and knew exactly where to hide their goods, because
of course they did.
They knew the maze like
right.
back of their hand. They could do it, without lights or anything, so they didn't have to worry about getting lost.
Jiminy.
Um, so the tunnels were built by Chinese workers.
Yeah.
Um, and according to experts, many unfortunate souls never made it out alive. Many were beaten, starved, and left for dead deep within the tunnels. Gangs used the tunnels for their hideout and would often drag their victims into the tunnels to keep them from talking to the police.
Those
Uh,
whores.
there's evidence that the gangs even kept disobedient members in the tunnels as a form of punishment.
What the fuck?
Oftentimes, the disobedient member would be left by themselves with no light. Sometimes the gangs would retrieve their man after a certain period of time, and other times they just wouldn't.
They'd be like, ah, you've served your duty. You don't have to be in here longer. Just kidding.
Some parts of the tunnels go on for miles and miles. It would be easy to get lost in the dark, especially without a light to see where you were going. The labyrinth of the tunnels is still explored today. Um, Visitors can travel underground and see the holding cells that were once used by the prostitution rings, as well as the trapdoors the crimps dropped people through, which are still functional in some bars.
What?
Yeah, it's historical. And they also use that as an entry point for
Okay.
tours.
Okay.
Most of them have been boarded over
Uh-huh.
to prevent people from coming in and out through the doors.
I mean,
Because
that's
it's a
good.
safety thing.
Right.
There are many tunnels that have also collapsed over the years, and some tunnels lead to nowhere.
Ooh. Okay.
So deep in the tunnels, visitors reported feeling goosebumps as if someone is watching them from the shadows. Many people report seeing an Asian man walking past them in the tunnels. Visitors have named the spirit Sam and say that he is responsible for turning off the lights in bar basements. Sam also likes to move things around in the tunnels as explorers walk by.
Oh, hell no. Sorry.
One tour guide reported hearing a voice calling out the name Sam over and over again. It echoed through the tunnel and scared his guests. Because his entire group was behind him, he knew that it was not one of them. He says it was one of the scariest experiences of his life.
I mean, yeah.
Others have reported seeing quick movements of shadows and feeling ghostly fingers on their shoulders when no one else is around.
Yep. There it is.
Most tunnel tourists say that Sam is a good ghost and look forward to feeling his presence. I don't care. I don't care if he's a good ghost or not.
This is my personal bubble.
No touchy.
That is your personal bubble. Like, Frank will only do that, like, if I can't, let's say I'm asleep and I'm dealing with my nasal because I'm sick. Let's say I'm dealing with my nasal shit like I am right now. He'll wake me up, and it is the coldest thing on the planet. Even though he's a very warm person, it's like sticking an icicle right on my back, like a popsicle, like the Punisher.
It gets your attention.
Let me tell you, I'm awake now.
Other tunnel spirits are known to be tricksters who just love to have a good time.
Of course.
They will often pull at your shirt tail or gently tug at the ends of your hair. One guest reported feeling a small tug on her shirt before she tripped. She was not injured, and it was an experience she says she will never forget.
Yeah.
While most of the ghosts down in the tunnels are reportedly friendly, it is still better to remain cautious. Some people recall feeling unwelcome, like someone or something is watching them. One person remembers hearing the sounds of a childlike whistling just before he was thrown to the ground.
What?
After standing up, he turned to see who had knocked him down. Lifting his flashlight, he saw that no one was behind him. The man reported that it was the last time he would be visiting the tunnels.
Yeah.
Although there are some scary reports of activity coming from down the tunnels, most of the experiences have been friendly. Literally, like, there's just so much information about the tunnels. So trying to keep this short, so I'm skimming through my stuff.
I mean, if they want to learn more about the tunnels, we could definitely do a full deep
Oh,
dive on it.
100%. I
Yeah,
could literally do a whole episode on this.
maybe two. It
Uh,
sounds like it's a two-parter.
it is maybe not so much two-parter, definitely one-parter. It's just that this has always been one of my interests.
One of your squirrel holes.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, an ADHD squirrel hole is something that you are definitely fascinated by, and you just go. It's like a rabbit hole, but worse because it goes into different areas. Ow! I just popped my elbow.
I heard that.
Did you see that look of shock? Just it's like that
Yes.
girl that gets hit in the side. Stay alive, stay alive.
But yes, we can definitely go back
Do more.
and cover that more
Okay.
there. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of rattle off some of these other very spooky places.
Ooh, yes,
Uh,
yes.
there's the Geyser Hotel in Baker City.
Yep.
Uh, it was built in 1880s, and it was a place for the rich to party. Um, it fell into disrepair in the late 1960s. Full restoration occurred in the 1990s to bring back to life. Guests have reported eerie sounds, apparitions, and feelings of paranormal activity. Many believe these to be the lost souls of former dancers, chefs, flappers, and other late characters of the property. Some guests reported trouble getting into their rooms, while some have said the ghostly presence has given them pains in their head and body.
Yep.
Which I get enough pains in my head and my body as it is. I don't need no extra help. No, thank you.
Well, they're trying. So a good chunk of the time when they're trying to communicate, they get upset because nobody can hear them, and you can
Mm-hmm.
feel that, and like it feels like a head cold. So it's like right here and right here, but then it goes all over the top, but you don't feel it anywhere else. It's not fun. 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
That's how it feels like when I start to get a migraine. So I'm just like, oh, okay.
So you know you're
Yeah.
aware. You're good.
Yes. Then there is Granite in Grant City County.
Okay.
This ghost town is reported to be home of supernatural activity. Hot Lake Hotel in Hot Lake
All right.
was established in 1864. Um, the hotel was located along thermal hot springs, hence the name.
Okay.
Served as a sanatorium and experimental medical
I'm sorry.
facility of
It's a hot spring that served as a what?
sanatorium and experimental medical facility,
Wow. So it's not just haunted, it's really haunted. Got
of
it.
which fire claimed half of the building in 1934.
No, absolutely not.
Uh, the countless deaths that occurred there are cited as the source of alleged paranormal activity. It was featured on the series The Scariest Places on Earth in 2001.
Chimney. I wouldn't doubt. I mean, I think that's one of the places that our beloved Bagel Bites has gone to visit.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Jesus
I mean, because
Christ.
you already have, it being a hotbed for activity because there's the thermal hot springs.
Right.
And then everything else. Okay.
Just just
All the unrest.
layer some cheese on top of that.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Next place is Sumter Valley Gold Dredge in
Yes.
Sumter.
Sumter. Yep.
Uh, the historic Gold Dredge is allegedly haunted by Joe Bush, a ghost who allegedly causes the sound of disembodied footsteps.
10 out of 10. Would not recommend. These are all places I've been to. No.
Forby's Barclay House in Oregon City.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, there's an apparition of a red-haired boy who has been seen on the property. There's Benson Hotel in Portland.
Uh-huh.
It is reportedly haunted by Simon Benson, its owner and who built it in 1912. An apparition of a ghostly man descending the hotel staircase has been reported.
That one's actually not that bad. It's I think it was 2005, 6, something like that. I stayed up there. Not that bad.
Okay.
I don't know if it's still in let me know, listeners, if it is still active. I wouldn't mind going back. It's pretty nice.
There's Cathedral Park in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Portland has a lot of
Has a lot
stuff.
of spookies.
So it's located in the St. John's neighborhood. The park is reputed to be haunted by the ghost of Thelma Taylor, a teenager who was abducted and murdered in the area in 1949.
What?
Yeah.
Thelma Taylor. Do you wanna do that? Let's.
I mean, I can definitely do some research into it and
We'll
see what we can find.
Circle back to that later, and we'll tell you guys which episode it is.
Put a little pin in that.
Put a little. And we'll tell you guys which episode it is, so that way we can come back to it later. Continuing on the park.
Columbia Gorge Hotel in Hood River. Incidents of unexplained fires, as well as furniture and other objects moving, have been reported by staff and guests.
I'm just gonna nope.
The Crystal Ballroom, again in Portland.
Yep.
Disembodied laughter has been heard by employees after closing. The Damascus State Hospital in Wilsonville opened in 1961. Psychiatric Hospital was reported to be haunted before and after its closing in 1995. It was demolished in 2005.
Nope. We're just gonna. Nope.
Yep. Fort Daly's is located in the Dailies, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a contemporarily a museum. This post was used as an operational site for violent clashes between pioneers and Native Americans, and apparitions have allegedly been observed on the property. Well, no shit.
Well, I wonder why.
Moving on. Grand Lodge in Forest Grove was originally established as a Masonic lodge. Disembodied voices of children laughing, as well as the apparition of an elderly woman, have been observed by staff.
Look, okay, we're just going to take a brief pause. If y'all haven't heard ghostly children, as a walking Ouija board, I've heard it. Let me tell you, it ain't fucking fun.
No.
No.
It's very freaky.
Look, it's not
very
just
unnerving.
It's unnerving is what it is, because you're just sitting there, you're having a grand old time, and then you hear just this little twinkle of laughter. It is the freakiest fucking shit on the planet.
It is.
I don't like it. Neither should you.
No, not at all.
Moving on.
The Heathman Hotel in Portland. It's located in Southwest Portland. Opened in 1927, is reported to have several haunted rooms. The Holcomb Creek Trestle in Helvetia. This railroad bridge is said to be the location of several suicides and murders, and is allegedly haunted by their ghosts.
Oh, fuck that.
The Hollywood Theater in Portland.
Oh, yeah.
Built in 1926. Apparently, staff and patrons have reported the apparition of a ghostly male in the upstairs lobby, as well as the apparition of a woman in the back rows of one of the upstairs screening rooms.
They're not bad. They just like the shows.
They just like watching the movies.
Yep.
Embry Farm in Hillsborough. Also known as the Cornelius Pass Roadhouse. This farm is allegedly haunted by various Embry family members who died there.
Various angry family members?
No, Embry.
Embry.
It was the family name.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm like,
Imbrie.
I don't want to go where there's angry family members.
McLaughlin House in Oregon City has footsteps and slamming doors that have been observed in the house, which they attribute to the original owner, John McLaughlin.
Oh, okay.
Mount Angel Abbey in St. Benedict.
It's got to have nuns. Does it have nuns?
It's a Benedictine abbey and university and
Oh.
supernatural activity. And I'm just
Nope.
like, no shit.
Nope, it's got nuns.
It's an abbey. What do you expect? Multnomah County Poor Farm in Troutdale.
Uh-huh.
That's a loaded cannon.
Okay.
So it was built in 1911 as the county poor farm. The original site housed an eclectic mix of people who worked on the site of the farm, as well as the laundry facilities, hospital wing, and jail.
Oh, fuck that.
In the 1950s, it took in tuberculosis patients, then children with mental health issues, and then the aging and infirm.
I'm good.
For some time, the building shuttered and fell into disrepair until the McMenamin brothers bought it and reopened it as the Edgefield Winery in 1990.
No.
Slowly adding the brewery, movie theater, guest rooms, golf course, landscaping, and more. Today, some can still feel the eerie presence of those who've died there, many of whom are believed to be buried in unmarked graves on the property.
What? No.
It was a poor farm. That's what they did with, unfortunately.
I know, but why? No. No. How about a big...
I know.
No.
I told you it was loaded cannon.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Then you have the Multnomah Falls.
Okay.
Which, according to Native American legend, the waterfall is haunted by a maiden of the Multnomah people who leapt to her death from the upper falls in a self-sacrifice to save her village from a plague.
Fun fact. That is where they got the legend for Twilight.
Good to know.
You're welcome. I'm full of useless shit.
Apparently, the North Portland Library is haunted.
Oh, that's for our librarian, Sam.
Honestly, if I have to come back as a ghost, put me in a library so I can I can read all the books I never got a chance to read while I was alive.
Oh my God. Well, no. I honestly, okay, if I had to come back and haunt anywhere, I would haunt a kitchen.
That too. I would bounce between a library and a kitchen.
You're adding too much salt. Diane, stop putting in the salt.
So apparently there's an elderly man has been seen numerous times on security cameras.
Oh!
Particularly in a second floor conference room.
Hell no!
The Oaks Amusement Park in Portland is haunted, known as the Coney Island of the Northwest. Upon opening in 1905, patrons have reported seeing the apparition of a lone child in vintage clothing there who disappears before their eyes.
What the fuck?
Obviously, Old Portland Underground, which is the tunnels.
Right.
Old Town Pizza in Portland. Venues allegedly haunted by the ghost of Nina, who was a prostitute that was murdered in the elevator shaft of the building in the late 1800s, when it was then the location of the Merchant Hotel.
Oh, poor Nina.
Yeah. Apparently, they still have the brick that you can see that supposedly...
No. We bury it with reverence.
I know. But they have the apparently, according to another podcast I was listening to on this subject, they have it all kind of framed in, and you can just kind of look down the shaft.
What podcast was that, in case our listeners were curious?
I think it was A Scary State.
Okay. Because I don't know if you know this, podcasting is a cutthroat sort of thing.
Yes.
Nobody likes helping other people out. Look, we love listening to other podcasts. We love giving them love. So
it also helps with our research because you can because they, say where they pulled
Pulled from.
their stuff from. And so I was just like, oh, okay, that's good to know. Add
Right.
that to mine.
Right. I did that for one of my cases, but like, go give people a listen. So Scary State. That's where you got that information from.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
There's the Piddock Mansion, again in Portland,
Okay.
who's allegedly haunted by the original owners, who was a publishing magnate, Henry Piddock, and his wife, Georgiana, both of who died in the house.
Of course they did.
Reed College.
Okay.
Um, Apparently, there's a ghost on the third floor of the Prexy Residence Hall. Rice Auditorium in Monmouth. The auditorium on the Western Oregon University campus is allegedly haunted by George Harding, a prolific theater director at the university.
Oh, all right.
Rimsky-Korsakov House in Portland. Various poltergeist activity has been reported in this historic home, which now houses a coffee shop.
Well, like you do, it is Oregon, you know.
Yes. The Roseland Theater
Okay.
is reportedly haunted by Timothy Moreau, a 21-year-old publicity agent who was murdered there by the club's owner in 1990. So fairly recent.
Yeah. It was all over the news.
Tryon Creek State Park. Apparently, there's sounds of horses whinnying and disembodied male voices.
That's fun.
The Villa St. Rose. Former Catholic convent and girls' school.
What the fuck? Sorry, I have a thing about nuns.
And disembodied voices and footsteps.
No.
At least this one, they have
At
feet.
least they have footsteps. Fucking feet.
The Waldschmidt Hall has disembodied footsteps and fleeting shadows have been witnessed in this University of Portland building by students and staff.
Okay.
And then the White Eagles Saloon, which opened in 1911, served as a brothel and opium den and was the site of many violent brawls.
Well, of course.
Is allegedly haunted by the ghost of a woman who was murdered there. And one patron reported being inexplicably locked in the women's bathroom for 15 minutes, only to find out that the door had no lock on it. So somebody was holding that door.
Absolutely not. Let's just nope right out of there.
Almost done.
Oh, you're fine. I'm having a grand old time. I know you probably need to get to bed. You had a long night.
Nah, it's fine. Not too much longer.
Okay.
So the Ashland Springs Hotel was originally known as the Mark Antony Hotel. Employees and guests have witnessed shadowy figures as well as the apparition of a bellboy at the elevator.
Oh. Right. Okay.
The Elizabethan Theater, also in Ashland.
Yep.
The ghost of actor Charles Loughton, who frequented the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, was allegedly seen and heard at the theater after his death in 1962.
So that I can, without a shadow of a doubt, my mom took me there twice. Look, there are certain places I can go, be perfectly fine. That was one I was like,
no, thank you.
No, thanks. I'm
hard no.
Hard
no. Lithia Park in Ashland. It was named after the lithium-rich water that flowed from the water fountains.
Oh, okay.
It was opened on the side of a former mill in 1916. Over 100 acres of rugged, hilly terrain bisected by the Ashland Creek. So it's a big park.
Yeah, sounds like it.
It's reportedly haunted by the ghost of a woman that was murdered in the 19th century. And visitors have described a blue light glowing above the pond.
Nope.
Often called the crown jewel of Ashland. Um, it makes one of the loveliest places to see the leaves turn in autumn. And I'm just like, if you, aside from the ghosts.
Aside from the ghosts, yeah, probably, but no.
Um, Apparently it's one of the most haunted places in town.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Um, One is, the woman. Another is a dog-faced boy who lived in the area in the 1920s, but one day mysteriously disappeared.
A dog-faced boy. Okay.
Another is a logger who met an untimely death crushed by a tree. Some say they can sometimes still hear a faint whistling song, thought to be the tunes he would sometimes play on his favorite instrument, fashioned from an old milk jug.
Yep.
Oregon Caves Chateau in Cave Junction.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Rustic Lodge is reportedly haunted by a poltergeist named Elizabeth, a woman who committed suicide in the chateau in 1937.
Okay. Definitely haunted.
The Oregon Vortex
Oh yeah.
in Gold Hill causes optical illusions. This area has been described as causing inexplicable unease in visitors.
Yep.
Southern Oregon University in Ashland. Paranormal activity has been described in several buildings on the campus, namely Churchill Hall and Taylor Hall, where the apparition of the former janitor has been observed.
Okay.
Wolf Creek Inn, obviously Wolf Creek,
Yeah.
opened in 1883 as a carriage stop. This inn was allegedly the site of a vampire-like being that attacked a traveler there in the 1970s.
The chupacabra.
The Thomas McCain House in Bend, reportedly by an owner of the home, has attributed to the ghost of McCain's grandmother who died there. So I think it's the grandmother that's causing all this paranormal shit.
Granny. Which did...
Uh, the Redmond Hotel in Redmond. Apparition of a woman has been witnessed by guests as well as floating orbs.
Okay.
St. Francis School in Bend.
Oh.
Apparitions of children and poltergeist activity have been reported by guests at this now hotel.
No. No. Just no.
Sun River Resort in Sun River, formerly a military training center known as Camp Abbott. This resort's Great Hall has been the site of alleged poltergeist activity attributed to the ghost of a soldier.
Why? No, just why do you keep making things hotels that do not need to be hotels?
I don't know.
Keep going. I'm here.
Because white men.
And white men, yes. Let's just blame it on white men.
The Egyptian Theater in Coos Bay.
Yep.
I just like saying the name Coos Bay.
Coos Bay. Melissa, my childhood best friend, Melissa. I think she still lives in Coos Bay. That place is definitely haunted.
Guests have reported being touched by an unseen entity in this theater. No, thank you.
No thanks.
Like said before, no touchy.
No touchy.
Fort Stephens in Warrington is a former military fort built in 1863. The location is reportedly haunted by the apparition of a young soldier who walks its outlying paths. The battery itself is also reportedly haunted.
Right.
I have two more, and then I'm doing a lighthouse.
Ooh, okay.
Nicani Mountain in Tillamook County.
Uh-huh.
Spanish pirates massacred on this mountain in the early 1700s
Uh-huh.
by United Tillamook, Clatsop, and Nehalem peoples are alleged to haunt the site.
Okay.
Silets Bay in Lincoln City.
And if we're not
My
pronouncing
brain,
this correctly, let us know.
yes. Um, because it's Siletz. My brain looks at that and goes, silence. And I'm almost like, I don't think so. I might be wrong though. Anyways, the Phantom schooner of the Blanco was capsized in the bay in 1864, has allegedly been seen appearing and disappearing in the bay. The bay is a graveyard to three other schooners. Go away. Uh, the Sunbeam, Uncle John, and the Phoebe Fay, all of which sank there in the 19th century.
No, I don't want it.
And, and last but not least, Hecata Head Lighthouse in Florence.
Okay.
Heceta.
Okay.
So the most well-known haunted place in the region, uh, the lighthouse was built in 1894. The former assistant lighthouse lightkeeper's house, which is now a bed and breakfast, and the lighthouse itself are said to be haunted by Rue, a friendly ghost in search of her lost child.
Uh,
Photos. I'm going to come back to Rue in a second.
okay.
Uh, Photos Travel named the Lighthouse Bed and Breakfast one of the most haunted hotels in America. To quote, sit by the fire on a stormy night with the dark waves crashing on the rocks below and read various guests' accounts of Rue's presence. Then snuggle up in Victoria's room, the room with the most paranormal activity as reported by visitors. Okay, so back to Rue.
Okay.
Rue is believed to be the wife of lighthouse keeper Frank DeRoy in the 1890s, and they had a daughter die tragically during their time at the lighthouse.
Oh.
Guests have reported to have the scent of flowers or rose perfume appear out of nowhere, or even seeing an imprint on their bed.
What? No.
Like, I'm okay with the perfume, but the imprint on the bed, no, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Little backstory on the lighthouse now.
Okay.
For more than a century, the lighthouse has helped seagoers navigate the Pacific Ocean's treacherous currents. The Cape owes its name to Don Bruno de Hecata, who in 1775 embarked on a secret voyage for the Queen of Spain to sail up the west coast.
Okay.
Due to the onslaught of scurvy, because lack of vitamin C,
right.
He and his crew turned back just before the Columbia River, but not before he noted the shallow waters and rocky headland that now bear his name. A century later, mariners frequenting the dark waters between Coos Bay, I love that name.
It's a good name.
Because all I can think of is the Highland cows.
Oh.
So Coos Bay and Newport asked for a lighthouse to guide their journeys up and down the coast because
right,
it's treacherous water. Like, they need some help.
Right.
Hecata had proved an ideal location, but the construction project in this isolated place was no small feat. In 1892, an order was placed with the Chance brothers in England for a powerful first order Fresnel lens to be shipped to the island, to Hecata Head, where construction of two Queen Anne style lightkeepers' houses and lighthouse tower had already begun.
Oh, okay. So there was not just one tower, but
no. So it was one tower, but two houses.
Oh, okay.
So you had the main housekeeper's house,
right?
Because he would move there with his family,
right?
And then you had the secondary keeper's house with his family.
Oh, okay.
If he had a family,
right?
Usually, if they were both bachelors, they would just live in one house. But if they both had families and were married, they had to have two separate houses.
Right.
Or even if one was married and one wasn't, still two separate houses.
Two separate houses, yeah.
Building materials were transported over a single lane wagon road or placed on rafts and pushed overboard had Cape Cove to float ashore with the incoming tide. So like they had to work to get the materials over there.
Right.
On March 30th, 1894, the lighthouse cast its first beam.
Oh.
The first 8 years were trying times for the three lighthouse keepers and their families who lived in the little community of Hecate Head. Many lighthouse keepers were unable to handle the sparse and isolated conditions and moved on. Headkeeper Olaf Hansen worked for over 15 years to make the light station a sustainable community. He started the vegetable gardens, a schoolhouse, and the head post office.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Much changed in the 1930s when Oregon finished construction of U.S. Highway 101 and the light station received electricity.
Ooh.
Motorists frequently traveled up and down the Oregon coast, which ended the lightkeepers' years of isolation. Electricity allowed for a partial automated lighthouse, which ended the duty of one lightkeeper because you didn't need
Both.
one person to work day, one person to work night to make sure everything was running smoothly.
Right.
The 1930s ended with the retirement of the U.S. Lighthouse Service. Its successor, the U.S. Coast Guard, retired the head keeper's dwelling and sold the house for $10.
Okay. Not bad.
$10 for like 1940. That was still fairly good.
That was still fairly, yeah.
The salvaged lumber returned to Mapleton to build what's now known as the Alphabet Store and Cafe. So they repurposed the wood, which good for them.
Good for them.
We love repurposing.
We love that. We love a little recycling.
During World War II, skipped ahead of myself.
Okay.
During World War II, the Coast Guard Beach Patrol manned Hecate Bay with 75 men. 75 men, but one house.
Holy crap. That is not a lot of space.
But granted, by that point, I'm assuming that they probably had like some other buildings built.
Probably. Like some
I would assume so.
Houses, some yurts.
They guarded the beaches between Florence and Yachts with attack dogs and lived in 2 wooden barracks. Just answered my own question.
There you go.
2 wooden barracks where the headkeeper's house once stood.
Okay.
From 1925 to 1950, Cap and Ma Herman witnessed all of these drastic changes. Cap opted not to take a Coast Guard rank and was the only civilian allowed on the property during the war.
Oh.
After World War II, the Coast Guard continued to man the light station as an aid to navigation. 2 men and their families remained there. In 1963, the head lightkeeper Oswald Alec witnessed the end of an era of lightkeepers when the lighthouse was automated and turned over to computers. The keeper's house was then turned over to the U.S. Forest System.
Okay.
Forest Service.
Yeah.
From 1970 to 1995, the U.S. Forest Service leased the keeper's house to Lane Community College for use as a satellite campus. The wall dividing the 2 dining rooms was removed to create a classroom space. Students were able to enjoy the Oregon coast while taking classes, retiring afterwards to the 2nd floor, which was furnished with bunk beds.
Very cool.
When the keeper's house was placed on the National Registry of Historic Places in 1973, the U.S. Forest Service looked for alternative uses that would allow the keeper's house to be more accessible to the public and to share the rich history. It was decided that a bed and breakfast would make this feasible.
All right.
Hecate had entered a new era in 1995 when Mike and Carol Corrigan were chosen to be the first innkeepers for the bed and breakfast. As volunteers, they helped start the careful restoration of the interior. They have now retired, but their daughter Michelle continues to restore the keeper's house and invites the public to enjoy this national treasure.
I think that's really rad.
Right?
Like that's super cool. That was one of the places I wanted to stay at, but because of the weather, I was unable to. Because I couldn't make it up the coast by myself.
Right.
Because I look, it was snowing, and there was no way I was going to be able to stay there.
Mm-mm.
Uh-uh.
No thanks.
No thanks.
Anyway, so that was Oregon.
Look, I have stayed in a good chunk of those places. As you heard, I interrupted. I apologize. But
no, it's fine.
It's one of those.
I love your interruptions.
It's one of those places where you just kind of go, "What the fuck?"
Right.
I went to the Shakespeare Festival a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to a couple of the inns there. There's just so much history, and you just kind of want to take it all in, you know?
Right.
But there's certain places in Oregon that I still will never go to.
100%.
One of them, you know, the sites of the sanatoriums and stuff like that. I had a couple of friends that are like, come on, let's just go. Mm-mm.
No.
Absolutely
the amount
not.
of trauma that occurred there. No,
absolutely not. A bunch of those sanatoriums, from the research that I did when I was planning my trip to go up there, they did a lot of lobotomies for women that were just, you know, that had been SA'd or that had been, you know, in incestuous relationships and need to be fixed, that kind of thing. They, instead of fixing it the way that they should have with, you know, therapy, they lobotomized them. And so they were essentially walking vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not the type of, you know, type of care that we should have given those people.
No. They even did it to women who the men in their life deemed them as being too much.
Right. And all they needed to be was just
loved.
Right.
Loved in therapy.
Now the one place that I did think was a lot of fun was the Shakespeare Theater.
Oh, I bet.
Oh my God. So it's an exact replica of the actual theater that's over in England, and it's literally 180.
Oh, the globe?
The globe. It's literally 180 degrees. So it's the exact one. So if you built a hole from that theater to the globe, it would match up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I thought it was the coolest thing on the planet. I was like, no freaking way. No way. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I thought it was so freaking cool.
You know, that architect and that engineer were like so excited to do that.
Let me tell you. And somebody in the group was dumb enough to
of course,
say the word that you shouldn't say, which I did, which I will say right now, Macbeth. I was dumb enough, and I was like, "Oh, what play are you doing?" And they were like, "We can't talk about it until the actual opening night because it'll curse us." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
it's not like it's Macbeth or anything." And I swear to God, the looks I got.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't understand why I'm having such bad luck today. I fell down, 2 pieces of stairs and all this other stuff. And then, one of them told me it's because this place is actually haunted. I was like, right, like it is. And then, my spidey sense kicks on and it was like, oh, I'm dumb. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
I didn't mean any of this, I swear.
I didn't. And the ghost was kind of funny and he's just like letting it go at this point. But, it's one of those things where it's like, if I could go back, I would, just to visit, just to, kind of see family and friends and everything. But I mean, beautiful place. Beautiful place.
Oh, yes.
Have you gone to Oregon?
I have not. It is on my list.
If you do go. It is a lot of fun. I would suggest going in the summer months because it's not as hot. What else? Coos Bay is great. Buttloads of white people. I was so used to saying Spanish at the McDonald's. We went to McDonald's when we were driving through, and me and my ex-best friend, and all of a sudden she's just like, "Welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you?" And I was like, "I need a second to process this because you speak English. Give me a second." But she was super nice. And
Please hold.
There's only one sushi restaurant in the area, and it's actually quite delicious. And if you know, I mean, Coos Bay is actually really, really pretty. And like I said, my best friend Melissa from childhood lives there, and you know, I love her to death. I love her dearly. I hope she's well.
It's good.
But yeah, you know, Oregon. Go Oregon.
Woo!
Woo!
Okay. I'm starting to get tired now.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you
It's
go
my
to bed.
bedtime.
We'll let you go to bed. I will keep not having you on here. Hope you guys had a great time with our lovely episode, and stay tuned next time with our non-alphabetical ABCs. Hope you had fun.
I love not going in order.
Yes, it's great. We'll see you guys next time, though, for a bunch more shit. Stay spooky. Stay spooky. And we'll talk to you next time.
Okay, bye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches. Why?
So,
Sorry.
yeah, but I don't know. If they are like, if you're on that path, run. Like, I know we've talked previously about, you know, if something's running, run, but like actually run,
Right?
Because if it's if you're in the way, get to scooting.
If the men find out we can shape shift, they're going to tell the church.
The area was the site of one of the bloodiest battles in the island's history, which is the Battle of Niuanu, which was the final and most brutal battle in the struggle to unify the Hawaiian Islands.